Oh, but Lieutenant Tommy, we don't actually know who fired the first shot of the Civil War, which is a true statement and a false statement all rolled into one, because the very first shots in hostility go all the way back to January 8th of 1861, when Florida State Militia attempts to storm the federal Fort Barrancas, and the federal troops fire off a warning shot which scatters those state militia. So, and we don't know who fired that warning shot. Now, you might say, well, then that's the first shot of the Civil War, except for the fact that Florida hadn't even seceded yet. It's an act of insurrection, and nobody was actually directly shot at, so you can't really count that. But then on January 9th, there are artillery batteries that open up on Morris Island that fire at the U.S. Star of the West, which is a civilian vessel that was carrying troops and ammunition and supplies for Fort Sumter, but they fired at it. Captain Doubleday is like, why aren't we firing back? And Major Anderson's I'm kind of a Southern sympathizer, and I don't want to do that. But we know for a fact that George Haynesworth was the cadet that fired that first shot against the U.S. Star of the West, which could technically be considered the first shot of the Civil War. Now, beyond all of that, Fort Sumter was fired upon at 4:30 in the morning, and it was offered to Roger Pryor, who refused, saying, I could not be the first one to shoot, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to be the first one to shoot the first shot. So it gets offered to Captain George S. James, who then uses Lieutenant S. Farley to fire a single 10-inch mortar round, starting the whole Civil War off, and the first Union response isn't until 7 a.m. on that day by Captain Doubleday. So we know who fired the first shot. It's really not disputed. I mean, you can kind of sort of dispute like which Confederate was the one who fired the first shot during the Battle of Fort Sumter, but in reality, like, it was the dirty rebels. Stop making shit up.